Welcome. Today we're doing a deep dive into Jesmyn Ward's incredible novel, Sing, Unburied, Sing.
Yes, and specifically, we want to explore this core idea about how we understand and create our own identities. There's a great essay, Sing Unburied, Sing and the Creation of Self, that really helps unpack this.
Exactly. So the book itself introduces us to some really compelling characters who are grappling with this.
Right. You've got Leonie first. She's a young black mother, and she's really caught between, her own needs and desires and being a parent.
And then there's her son, Jojo. He's only 13, but carrying so much weight dealing with racial expectations, basically having to be the adult.
And the third key figure is Richie. He's a ghost, actually, a young boy's ghost who's stuck and trying to understand his death, his place.
So their stories really ground this bigger question about identity, and that essay you mentioned brings in Jerome Bruner's work.
His concept of the narrative creation of self, the idea basically is that our sense of who we are isn't some fixed thing.
It's more like a story.
Exactly. A story we're constantly telling ourselves.
Yeah.
Constantly revising based on our past, what we need right now, and, our hopes and fears for the future.
Okay, so Bruner actually puts it really clearly. He says, let me find the quote here. Here's no such thing as an intuitively obvious and essential self to know, one that just sits there to be portrayed in words.
Right. It's not just waiting to be discovered.
No, he goes on. Rather, we constantly construct and reconstruct a self to meet the needs of the situations we encounter.
And do so with the guidance of our memories of the past and our hopes and fears for the future. It's an active process. We build it.
Like saying, okay, I got through that tough time, so I must be resilient. That becomes part of your story, part of yourself.
Even if it's not perfectly accurate, maybe, it shapes how we see ourselves. It emphasizes our own role in becoming who we are.
So that's the framework. And through Sing, Unburied, Sing, we're going to look at, well, three main things, right?
Yeah. First, this whole idea of self-construction and action. Second, how important it is to be, seen or recognized by others to feel whole.
And third, this really difficult reality the book explores, that sometimes we actually end up hurting the people we love most.
Let's start with Leonie. She's such a central, complex character. A young black woman, her partner Michael is white, and he's in Parchman prison when this story begins.
And their drug use is significant, but it seems different for each of them.
Well, the essay suggests Michael uses drugs maybe to escape, block things out. His own ghosts, maybe.
But Leonie, it seems she uses them almost to connect, specifically with her brother's ghost.
Yes, given. Her brother, who was murdered, tragically, by Michael's cousin, he appears to her when she's high, even sometimes when she's with Michael.
Wow. So the essay suggests Given's ghost could be read as, what, like a metaphor?
Kind of like her conscience, yeah. A visible reminder of this deep, unresolved trauma, and maybe the wrong turns she's taking. He shows up in these moments of self-destruction or complicated intimacy.
It's like this constant nudge that something's not right. You see that conflict interactions too, right? She tries sometimes.
Oh, definitely. There are moments she tries an herbal remedy for her daughter, Kayla.
Yeah.
She thinks twice about an herbal abortion earlier on. You see flashes of maternal instinct.
But they get overshadowed.
They do. By her own needs, her addiction. It consistently undermines those attempts to be a good mother. Her kids suffer because of it.
So connecting back to Bruner, her lack of self-awareness is key here.
Absolutely. She's telling herself a story, maybe about needing the drugs, that prevents her from seeing herself clearly enough to change, to be the mother she perhaps wants to be deep down.
It illustrates that Bruner quote perfectly. Surely, if ourselves were transparent to us, we would have no need to tell ourselves about them.
And Leonie's self just isn't transparent to her. That lack of clarity really hinders her. It hurts her. It hurts her kids.
Her struggle really highlights the difficulty of crafting a positive self-narrative when you're caught in cycles like addiction and trauma, which contrasts sharply with Jojo, doesn't it?
It really does. Jojo's journey feels quite different. The essay frames it as a kind of rite of passage into adulthood, but way too soon.
Yeah, forced on him, really. Because Leonie and Michael are so wrapped up in their own issues, he has to step up.
Massively. He's basically the main caregiver for his little sister, Kayla. And, as we'll get to, he even ends up guiding Richie, the ghost.
Bruner talks about rites of passage being painful or taxing, enough to make the change feel real, to legitimate change. Jojo's life is definitely taxing.
No kidding. Yet somehow, the essay argues, he seems the most grounded, the most well-adjusted of the three main living characters, maybe.
How? With everything he's dealing with.
Well, the thinking is that this early responsibility, while unfair, becomes part of his story, his narrative of self. I'm the one who takes care of things.
And crucially, he has support that Leonie seems to lack.
Exactly. His grandparents, Mam and Pop, they provide this consistent love, this stability. It gives him what the essay calls a strong base for self-narration.
An anchor. So even with all the chaos around him, he has this core of being loved and seen.
Which seems absolutely vital. That recognition, that care from his grandparents, fuels his ability to build a relatively secure sense of self, despite the hardships.
It really shows how much relationships and external validation matter in building that internal story. Which brings us to Richie.
Richie, the ghost boy. His story raises such deep questions about what happens when that narrative process is cut short.
He wants to pass on, right? But he can't seem to.
Because he died so young, around 12. He never got the chance to live, to have the experiences needed to really form a full identity, a complete story.
Bruner's quote about losing the ability to construct narratives, meaning losing yourself, seems incredibly relevant here.
Painfully relevant. As a ghost, Richie can't really act in the world, can't add to his story. The essay uses this image of him being like a broken needle, unable to finish the tapestry of his soul.
Just stuck. He's searching for answers about his death, thinking that knowing how he died will free him.
Right. And he does eventually learn the truth, the awful truth. That Pop, Jojo's grandfather River, actually killed him.
Which sounds horrific, but the reason...
The reason was to save him from something even worse, a brutal lynching that was about to happen. Pop ended his life quickly to prevent that unimaginable torture.
But even knowing that doesn't immediately let Richie pass on. The knowledge isn't enough.
No, it's not just about the facts of the past. It seems something else is needed. Bruner does offer some hope, though. He says that once we have the capacity to narrate,
then we can produce a selfhood that joins us with others, that permits us to hark back selectively to our past while shaping ourselves for the possibilities of an imagined future.
And for Richie, it seems that joining, that connection, finally happens through recognition.
You mean Kayla singing at the end?
Exactly. That moment when Kayla, this innocent child, sees him, acknowledges his suffering, sings to him. The essay suggests that's what finally allows him peace.
So it wasn't just knowing his past, but being seen in the present. Having his pain acknowledged by another person.
It suggests our narratives aren't just internal. They need that external validation, that connection with others, to feel complete somehow. Richie needed someone else to witness his story, essentially.
Wow. That leads us into that other major theme you mentioned, the really tough one.
Yeah, the paradox that sometimes you have to hurt someone you love to protect them.
It's a disturbing idea, but the novel presents it so powerfully. We see a small version first, maybe?
With Jojo and Kayla.
Yeah.
When he makes her throw up that medicine Leonie gave her, he suspects it's bad for her.
Right. He causes her immediate distress vomiting. Isn't pleasant, but he does it to prevent, potentially, a much worse outcome, like poisoning.
The essay calls it a kind of foreshadowing, because the ultimate example is so much bigger, so much more devastating.
Pop killing Richie.
Yes, an act of violence, undeniably. Traumatic for Pop, obviously ending Richie's life, but done out of a terrible necessary love, you could argue.
To save him from the absolute horror of the lynch mob.
It's this agonizing choice forced by hate and brutality. The essay draws a direct line between Pop's action and Jojo's, both causing immediate harm out of the desire to protect from something far worse. It's protection born from desperation.
And it's so crucial to see how different that is from the hurt Leonie causes.
Completely different. The essay calls Leonie's actions inadvertent cruelties. They aren't born from a protective instinct, however flawed.
They come from her own issues, right? Her self-absorption, her addiction, her lack of awareness, not from trying to shield her kids from greater harm.
Precisely. The intention, the underlying narrative driving the action, is entirely different. Pop's act, while violent, stems from a perceived need to protect. Leonie's harmful actions stem from, well, from her own broken narrative.
So, wrapping this up, Sing, Unburied Sing really gives us this incredibly rich, sometimes painful look at how we build ourselves.
Through Leonie's struggles, Jojo's resilience, Richie's search for peace, we see this constant process of narrative creation.
And it hammers home that point about needing self-knowledge, but also needing recognition from others to truly become whole.
And it doesn't shy away from complexity, like the idea that love and protection can sometimes tragically involve causing pain.
So the final thought for you, listening, is maybe to reflect on your own narrative construction. How do your past, your hopes, your fears weave together into the story of who you are right now?
Yeah, and maybe consider that tougher question too. Are there times when setting a boundary, or maybe saying something difficult causing temporary discomfort, might actually be the most caring, protective thing you can do for someone, or even for yourself? It's definitely something to chew on.
It really is. If this conversation sparked your interest, we absolutely encourage you to read Jesmyn Ward's Sing, Unburied, Sing. It's just phenomenal.
And maybe check out Jerome Bruner's work on the narrative self, too. There's so much depth there to explore.